Hey guys, so this is my first video that I'm going to be uploading on my YouTube. I wanted to do it raw, no makeup, my hair not done, a total mess. To be honest, I have my waist trainer on right now and my sports bra. I'm cleaning my house and I'm actually having to do this video while my two youngest ones are asleep because if they were awake, I would not be able to do this. But this is me. I'm Ashley. I'm 30 years old. I've had 7 kids. I've had 6 boys, and I just had my first daughter. She's about to be 2 years old. I have an amazing stepdaughter that I was blessed with. She just turned 6 years old, and she is the light of my life. I absolutely love her, and I am so thankful that God brought her into my life. And if for all of those that could hear that, that's my son. We actually just all got over croup. And for those of you who did not know that adults can get croup, you can. It's viral and it rarely happens to adults, but you can get it. But like I was saying, I wanted to start this YouTube because I've had a lot of people that have heard my story go viral, and they asked me how I get through stuff, and they wanted to know my personal experiences and trials and tribulations. And that's why I wanted to create this channel, because I wanted to be raw. I wanted to be real with you guys, and that's what I'm going to do on this channel. And you'll see me at my worst, you'll see me at my best, you'll see my good days, you'll see my bad days, you will see absolutely everything. In this world that we're living in nowadays, you cannot be perfect or be what everybody else wants you to be. Society puts all these people on these commercials where they're beautiful and they're skinny and they have liposuction and they have their faces done and Botox and this and that. And guys, you can do that to make yourself feel better, but what is within is what matters the most. I know I'm not the prettiest girl in the world, and I'm okay with that. I really am, because my opinion, my husband's opinion, my kids' opinion are the only things that matter the most to me. So like I said, I'm Ashley. I'm 30. I have a lot of kids. You'll get to know that. I'll do a video when they come home. But for all of those who know me from TikTok, I'm so glad that you followed me on this journey. So we're going to get down to the story. It's going to get pretty raw, but I would like to explain to you guys how my son passed away. So I became pregnant. I had my son in 2016, and prior to having my son, I had already had 4 boys. I had Braden, Patrick, Tanner, and Jay. 3 of them were from a previous relationship. I was with a man that was very mentally and physically abusive to me. He was on a lot of drugs and alcohol, and he was not good for me, and I was not good for him. We were like oil and water. We did not mix. We did not go together. But I tried to stay for my kids, and I tried to do what was best, and it just didn't work, you guys. If you're in one of those situations where it's mentally or physically abusive, get out, because you hear all the time that they love you and that things are going to get better, but it doesn't. It does not get better. I promise you that. And so yeah, I had 3 boys with this man before I met my husband, and then we had our first son. And then when I got pregnant with my 5th son, which is Landon, the one that passed away, we were so excited, you guys. I really wanted a girl, but I was still super excited that I was having a boy. And my prior pregnancies were really hard, except for my first. I had a lot of preemies, a lot of complications. So I would go see a high-risk doctor. And I would see this doctor pretty regular, at least 2 times a week, if not 3. They would have to do those really high-tech ultrasounds, which I was surprised because when my son was born, he was born with a true knot, and his umbilical cord was tied at least 4 to 5 times, you guys. So I'm not sure how he was getting his nutrients, how he was growing, anything like that. So I had a lot of problems with him. When I was pregnant, I was having to see a lot of doctors. I was getting to the point where my doctor said that I was about to deliver. She knew I was about to deliver, and she felt more comfortable with me having my son go to Cook's after he was born. And I was okay with that because Cook's is an amazing, amazing hospital. And so actually the next day I went to labor, and let's backtrack. The day before, when she said, hey, you're dilated, I'm pretty sure you're going to go into labor. So if you go into labor, do this and do that. I actually signed a consent form to have a tubal done because I was like, I have too many kids. After this one, I don't want any more. So I signed my tubal consent, which she was going to tie my tubes right after I delivered. So the next day I went to the hospital and I had my son, and my doctor was not the doctor that delivered me. My doctor was not there. I had a different doctor. His name was Dr. Hauser. He was located at Lake Granbury Hospital in Granbury, Texas. And he told me that my son was perfectly healthy. He did tell me and my husband, come look at this true knot. You don't really see this very much. He told him to take some pictures. So we thought that was kind of weird. And then after taking the pictures, he said he was healthy, that he didn't need to go to Cook's. And we expressed our concerns with, hey, my doctor really thought that he needed to go. And he said, no, he's healthy. He also did not want to do my tubal, so I did not get my tubes tied. We went upstairs to the recovery room, which I was at for 2 days. And the day that we were actually leaving the hospital, he kind of acted like he couldn't breathe. He started choking and gagging. And so I hit the nurse call button. The nurse came in. I thought he was turning blue. She said he wasn't. She said he was fine to go home. That was my first red flag. I was like, okay, something's not right, but maybe I'm just, paranoid. So I go home, and my husband actually was a manager at AutoZone for a while. So it was just me and my baby. And let me tell you guys that this happened in the craziest ways. And I'm starting to tear up because my faith has gotten so much stronger. And before, guys, I believed in God and I believed in church. But when I say that things happen for a reason, like, I'm getting goosebumps right now. Things happen for a reason. I lived in Granbury, an hour away from my family. My dad and I were not very close because as I was growing up, I was a wild child. And so when I moved back from Florida, I kind of kept to myself. I lived far away. My parents really didn't want to drive back and forth. But my sister had lived in Stephenville at the time, and I think that she had just moved. So it was really weird how this happened, you guys. My really good friend, Lindsay, who was like my mother to me, she came over and she actually was the first person that met him. She gave him his first bath, and we noticed right away that his color was not right. So we were like, okay, this is kind of strange. His color's not right. He looks a little off. That was the second thing that kind of bothered us, that his color, let me grab this. His color was not right. So after that, my best friend, who actually died in a car accident, a head-on car accident, her mom showed up the next day. And her mom got to hold my son. And that meant the world to me, that she got to hold my son. My kid's previous father got to hold the son. Thought that was pretty weird. And then my dad and my stepmom came, and they stayed all day long. And my dad, he held my baby, and he held him for hours. He held him for hours, and that part gets me because I've gone through a lot with my dad, and I love my dad so much, but I have never seen him bond to any of his grandkids, but he held my baby, and he loved him. And I actually have a picture of him holding him, and my mom held him, and they expressed some concerns that like his tongue was hanging out, and that his color was off, and that they thought that I needed to take him to the doctor. So the next day we took him to the doctor, and it was really weird because Dr. Delilah Wright in Granbury, Texas did not take his O2. And I was so worried. I was like, why are y'all not checking his oxygen? Because I was so worried that that's why he was blue. They did his newborn screening. They sent it off. She said he looked totally fine. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm obviously just crazy. And so we went home, and I bonded with him for another couple days. And then my sister came the day before he passed away. My sister came, and I actually will never forget that day because my sister held my baby, and she danced around the room to the one song by Dan and Shay, From the Ground Up, and she held him, and she danced with him, and she held him, and she danced, and she danced. And that's one of my really good memories too. And then the next day my aunt came, and she actually got him the potato sack that I still have that he threw up on. And I bought a whole bunch of clothes from this lady on Buy Sell or Trade. And the night that my husband came home, I kept asking him, you know, how come you don't really want to hold him? And he was busy. He was tired, and he was cooking spaghetti on the stove. And prior to this, I had only taken a couple of pictures of my son. So it was really weird how it happened the night that he passed away. I was laying in bed eating banana pudding, and I was playing dress up with him. I was just changing his clothes and just taking pictures over and over of him. And I just kept taking pictures and pictures and pictures and more pictures of him. And if I didn't take those pictures, I would have never had any of him. Nothing. And so I remember putting him in the bassinet next to my side of the bed and going to sleep. And it's kind of hard to explain because I had a California king size bed. So as you can tell on this side of the bed, my husband was on this side, and I was on this side, and I was facing this way, hanging off the bed, but it was a different house. So I was hanging off the bed, about to roll off. My husband was closest to the wall, and the next morning, I will never forget it, you guys. I remember my husband jumping up out of the bed, and I remember thinking, oh, he's late for work, and I dozed back off. And the next thing you know, my husband's screaming and shaking me, and he's telling me that Landon's not breathing, that he can't wake him up. And he's handed me my baby that's completely blue with his tongue hanging out. And he has blood coming from his mouth. And I just took him and started giving him CPR over and over and over again. And I was screaming so loud. And all my kids came in the room and they just kept seeing me breathe in his mouth. And every time I would breathe in his mouth, just blood would come out of his nose. And I remember I don't remember if I called the ambulance first. I think I called the ambulance first, but I called my dad. And I just kept saying, my baby, my baby, my baby, my baby, my baby, my baby. And my dad had to scream at me. And my husband had just built this kitchen table for me, and he had landed on it, and he was still giving him CPR. And the cop got to the house first, and the cop took him from us, and the cop started giving him chest compressions for a good 20 minutes, and then the EMS showed up, and they sat outside of my house for 20 minutes, and I thought to myself, like, why are they sitting out there? Why are they not going anywhere? Why are they not moving? And now that I think about it, I'm just like, there was nothing that they could do. So they leave and they take him to the hospital. And keep in mind, I went into this hospital all the time thinking that I was going into labor, and all these people knew me. Right when you walk in the door, they knew who I was. It's a small town. And I remember walking in there and them seeing my face, and them just, you could tell that they were just so upset. And I walked in the room because I was the first person there. And there were so many doctors and nurses surrounding him. And they just kept shooting him up with more stuff to try and get him to come back to life. And at the time, I just kept rubbing his hand and saying, come back, come back, come back to mommy. Just come back to mommy. Come back, come back. And then my husband came in the room and he grabbed my hand and he kept saying, come back to Daddy Landon, come back, come back. And then they just stopped. And I was like, why are y'all stopping? And they said that they just couldn't, he could be saved. And in that moment killed me. It killed my heart. It destroyed me, you guys. It destroyed my faith. I hated God. I hated everybody. I hated absolutely everybody, and I hated God for taking my baby. And I always thought that, what did I do so wrong in this life? What did I do? Was it for being so bad growing up? What did I do for lying? And I just had no words anymore. And this is where it gets raw, you guys, because there was times when my husband would go to work, and my husband and my parents don't know about this, but I would try over and over again to just take as many stuff as I could to just end my life. I thought of ways of just killing myself, thinking, okay, but then in the back of my mind, I was like, what are my kids gonna do without me? What are they gonna do without mommy? Because they're all mommy's boys. Numerous times, guys, because this is going on 4 years now that my son's been gone. For almost 4 years, I kept trying and never succeeded with hurting myself. Nothing I did could take my life. And I feel like God just was there holding my hand, just making sure that nothing happened to me. I've never had one dream about my son, even though I beg God all the time to just let me dream about him. I remember him being in the casket and feeling his hands over and over again and just trying to remember how he felt, what his skin felt like. But for all of you who wanted to know the story, that's the story of how my son passed away. And I'm much better now. I know that one day I'm going to see him. One day when it's my time to go to heaven, he'll be there waiting for me. I know he hears me. I know that he watches over us. And I love God so much. I love him. I love him for having him and taking care of him. And I love him for saving my life and for bringing him into my soul. To know how much that he loves me, how much God loves me. Now, I still have my good and bad days, but my faith has grown so much. My faith has grown so much. From where I was from the day that my son died, how angry of a person I was to the day to today. I am a completely different person. I think a completely different way. I'm a completely different mother. I'm a completely different wife. I'm just completely different. And I told my story on TikTok, but I couldn't really tell the whole thing just because of the blood and everything like that. I didn't know if they would take my video down, so that's the story. And I'm glad I didn't have makeup on or do my hair or anything like that, because Lord Jesus, look at me now. I would have been a mess in this first video. But this video and this channel is going to help people who have lost their sons, their daughters, their wives, their husbands. It's going to help them to know how to get through it. Because I'm going to show y'all exactly what I do every day and how I get through this. You know, this crazy thing called life is amazing. You have bad things happen and you have good things happen, and God will always be there. He's never going to give you anything that you can't handle. And it might be someone close or even your child dying, but God's not going to give that to you if you can't handle it. He only gives his strongest things to people that he knows that can handle it, his toughest soldiers. So this YouTube channel is going to be amazing. I have a really good feeling about it, and I know I'll probably have some judgy people, some people that have something to say about how I look right now or how I sound since I'm sick, but I know that it's going to save a lot of lives and it's going to help a lot of people. So I'm feeling pretty good about it. I wouldn't be doing this right now if it wasn't for Landon, and I want to help people. So I hope you like this video. I hope you subscribe. Find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, any of those. I would love to have you a part of this journey with me, and just keep watching.